3 common mistakes couples make when they're planning their wedding, part 2. Couples have a tendency to focus on budget instead of priorities. Budget is great. Not dishing to budget. I don't want you to go into debt for a wedding. Not my thing. What I'm saying with that is, instead of sitting down and first discovering what your budget is, you need to have a conversation right before that, because it has a lot of emphasis and priority on even what that budget looks like. You sit down and you think about what is most important to you, about your wedding day, about your marriage, about your life, right? For one of you, having a gigantic wedding might be a giant priority. And for another person, it might be, I don't really care about a wedding whatsoever. And there's a need to have a conversation about finding a middle ground, finding a compromise. It's a hard conversation, but it's important. On top of, if you just have this compromise of what that wedding looks like, what is a priority within that wedding? Is it a priority to have a huge people there, but you don't have the budget for it, so maybe you're doing a potluck? Or is it a huge priority for you that you have great photos, and therefore maybe we're going to have a backyard wedding but have a great photographer? It's a conversation to be had, because if you know what your priorities are, then you can get to the nitty-gritty about what that budget looks like and how to allocate it. You don't need to have everything covered. You can cut things that don't matter to you, that are low on the list, and put more money towards the things that actually matter to you. Another is that couples often think DIY is going to be a great way to save money, but in the end they end up costing more. A couple I had years and years ago, at this point it was almost a decade ago, they did a DIY wedding and they were trying to save money. They spent over $30,000 on a DIY wedding. She didn't have a wedding planner. She did all of these things, and it ended up adding up because she bought this and she bought that and she bought this and she bought that. DIY is not always the cheapest option. Sometimes it's cutting things instead. Sometimes it's hiring a planner that will help you keep to the budget you need to keep to. Even though they cost money, they can automatically keep you in that container that you need to be in. Couples often pinch pennies instead of cutting costs. What do I mean by this? Is they're thinking about small things that they can cut back of instead of big things. One of the hugest ways that you can cut back costs for your wedding is having less guests come. You can sit there and you can pinch pennies here and there, but there are things like favors that you can just cut the entire lump sum off and take that money that you might have spent there and apply it to something that matters more. Finding a cheap venue is not always the best option to save money, because alongside of the venue, if you have a prettier venue, you can spend less on decorations. The venue itself, by itself, sitting there is pretty. It's about finding where is important to save money and how collectively you can save money instead of just pointed and pinned. It's kind of like when you go to the alcohol store and you could buy the little travel size alcohol, but you know it's way cheaper to get the bigger one. If you can have the self-discipline to not drink the whole thing, it's much cheaper per ounce. Same truth applies to when you're planning your wedding. Follow for part 3.